Hi, everybody. Sorry for all the glasses glare. Can't help it. So, in thinking about this, did you know that everyone who it seems has overcome self sabotage or hard feelings or stressful thinking, including me and my binge eating behavior and anxiety, didn't finally gain control of themselves and conquer that behavior or carefully manage what they think or feel or do or get fired up with motivation and discipline? I know it sounds strange. We're so used to trying to change by learning how to take back our power or be happily disciplined, getting up at 5 a.m. or building great willpower. And while sometimes people say to me, "Wow, you are so motivated," I feel like I'm not trying to make myself motivated. I want to share 3 secrets today that I think will revolutionize, not really secrets, but revolutionize the way you've been treating self-sabotage and difficult feelings and stress that almost have nothing to do with trying to get motivated or more disciplined. My name's Grace Bell, and I'm an inquiry-based change coach, facilitator of the Work of Byron Katie. And I've discovered within myself and by facilitating hundreds of students over the years how to transform feeling upset about life and to dissolve negativity and self-sabotage without applying to control. That's actually saying something a little not quite right. I haven't discovered how to do that. It's just that it's happened without applying control or willpower or a bunch of special practices or rules or plans. What does it mean, inquiry-based change? People have been asking a lot that lately. Inquiry-based change, it's the art of being curious and turning towards whatever looks and feels painful and questioning the beliefs that hurt, that are in the way of peace. I think of inquiry-based change as a way to question what we're thinking about life itself and ourselves that leads to suffering. We get to wonder, is what I'm thinking actually true? So, like I said, my favorite way of inquiring, there are many beautiful ways, and there's lots of doors in to self-inquiry, but I love the simple steps of the Work of Byron Katie, which I trained in for several years and then began offering to people wanting to do this work starting in 2007. I'm going to share with you these 3, secrets or principles that might really help your self-inquiry, that can help you understand how powerful it is and encourage the insights that seem to come alive when we inquire and dissolve self-sabotage, like those behaviors like I had, binge eating, anxiety, difficult feelings, stressful thinking, without having to get a lobotomy. I was reading the other day about the history of lobotomies and how they thought they were so great when they first came out. And then they started realizing that there were side effects, of course. The thing is, whether you know it or not, if you're like me, it seems like we've got blind spots that are standing in the way of you and a much more peaceful response to life. And the blind spots are in what we believe. They're in our minds. At least mine were. They were always in the mind. I wasn't going to eat off balance or feel crazy or do anything, so uncomfortable unless I was believing a thought that actually was off balance or uncomfortable or painful. Now, you might be thinking, I've done therapy, I've examined myself, I've done EST. I did EST, that was a thing a while back. 12-step programs, seminars, self-help workshops, trauma work. I did everything, and they are all really helpful, and some very much resonated and made a difference. But I think none of the loving messages that were there could stick as long as I was still believing that life was fundamentally not to be trusted. So I want to share this great way you can turn towards self-inquiry and allow the insights and peace to emerge where you thought it was just obliterated, you couldn't find it. So the first principle or secret to accessing this inquiry-based change is that fighting, hating what is, hating ourselves, control, are barriers to an insight, to a mind shift change, to seeing things in a new, enlightened way, which of course we can't really direct or decide, or I'm going to now see things differently. We can't do that. But think about it. When you apply a closed-fisted thinking, way of thinking to the world and to yourself, you feel hurt and upset and defensive and angry and frightened. And the first secret or principle is an invitation to drop the control. It sounds difficult, but it may be easier than you think. It's like quit trying to quit. Quit trying to quit thinking about that thing. Quit trying to quit your behavior. This means not using force or aggression or control to change. Shocking. But why is this so very important? Because when I was suffering for years from binge eating, in my case, it doesn't matter what it is, like, ruminating, getting obsessive, getting compulsive, just any kind of form, all these forms of self-sabotage that we humans do. But trying to control ourselves over and over again, everybody can see it doesn't work. I mean, it definitely didn't work for me. It almost is like control itself can become a compulsion. If I just had control, I'd be happy. If I just had control, I would notice when I focused on controlling my eating and having a specific plan of action, which happened many times before healing seemed to appear, that I would eventually fail. And trying to make change happen also got me thinking constantly about the future and this great place I'd be one day when I wasn't disturbed and full of cravings and I wasn't doing this anymore. But what that meant for the present moment was, right now, I am not there yet. I'm not successful yet, right here, right now. Later I might be, but not here, right now. Got to work, got to double down. Lots of control type, fist tightening energy. So what if, instead of enemies, our difficult feelings or self-sabotage behavior is like an alarm calling to us? You're thinking painful thoughts when it comes to your beliefs. This is important because we've generally gone into trying to kill the parts of ourselves we dislike, like manage and control them, to feel aggressive and angry. And I just, like I said, notice it never worked. We can just get more discouraged and more despairing, actually, when we try, and then eventually the failure comes. I love Eckhart Tolle saying this. He said it goes so far as to be addicted to our stories, addicted to our thinking. So any kind of like self-sabotage or behavior that looks off balance, or even our ruminating, it's like we're addicted to these stories. And he said this: there's an unconscious belief in the mind. If I complain enough about something, it's going to change. If I can just show how unhappy I am, someone, or God, or life, will do something about it. And he goes on to say, compulsive thinking is actually an addiction. What characterizes an addiction? Quite simply this: you no longer feel that you have the choice to stop. It seems stronger than you, the urge to procrastinate, the ruminating about a relationship, the believing what you think. It starts with not trying to change that and being open to learning what's really happening. I like thinking of it as listening to what the mind is talking about when it's complaining, and to be curious instead of going immediately to problem solving. So how do you stop trying to control everything? How do you stop trying to stop applying control? The second principle or secret: noticing how strongly we believe that there's something wrong with us is very persistent and painful. So what if we questioned that there's something wrong? That's the second principle, the second secret. So long ago, I was in an AA meeting and I felt like a total failure again. And I was speaking and saying about how horrible my life is. I can't get abstinent. I'm miserable. I don't know how to do life. I feel so weak. I'm disappointing my parents. I was pretty young. I was living with my parents again. And I ended my share and I was crying and just felt so terrible. I'm kind of shocked that I actually shared. But I ended my share and I see this movement coming down the line of people in my row. It was a really large meeting. There were several rows. And the hands are passing a little piece of paper all folded up. They're passing the paper. They're passing the paper. And the person next to me hands it to me and says, "This is for you." I was like, me? Several people were nodding in the row. Others were listening to the next person who started speaking already. I had no idea where the paper came from. I never will. Or who wrote it. They were far out of view. But I unfolded it and it was on a little tiny notebook page, like 3 inches by 2 inches, and little tiny lines, and in delicate ballpoint pen, swirly writing, the word said something like, I don't have it anymore. It disappeared from my wallet at some point, maybe when I no longer needed it. But it said, when you hate yourself, it's a form of negative grandiosity. The main thing to understand about believing there's something wrong with us is that it adds to confusion and suffering. And it's like, and that word grandiosity, very interesting. I am positive that this is wrong. Looking at myself, looking at my thinking, looking at what's happening out there, that stuff is all wrong. So when we question it, that's kind of like a, shocking thing to even consider. It looks like it's wrong. It looks like we're powerless and broken and something's wrong with life. But I really like noticing when I'm believing something's wrong with me or the world, I'm thinking life is getting it wrong in our case. So Sam Harris, who's such a great author and meditation teacher, said almost all our suffering is the product of our thoughts. We spend nearly every moment of our lives lost in thought and hostage to the character of those thoughts. You can break the spell, he says. How? Self-inquiry. So starting with that one, second principle, just this is wrong. The way our mind will kind of be singing that song, it's wrong. When we step beyond that, or really look, how did I know it's wrong? When did I first learn it's wrong? I wonder what else is going on besides just this wrongness. I mean, we're not saying, that it doesn't hurt to be in this a binge eater. It looks like something's off balance. So I'm not making up that something isn't wrong. Fantastic, keep doing it. But I'm looking and seeing what else might be there instead of just zoning in on that wrong feeling and questioning, what else is going on? What am I believing? What hurts here? What hurts not just in the behavior, but prior to the reaching for something or trying to do this behavior? What's hurting? So I love the Zen story. It gets, shared around, often told to student Buddhists. There's a monk walking along a road. Stops suddenly when he sees a snake right in the middle of the road ahead. And there's a big drop-off on either side of the road. He spends hours waiting. He has to continue at some point to get home before dark. And there's no lighting. It's an old story. And he finally realizes he's had no choice but to approach the snake, hoping to scare it off or at least go around it. And as he does, he sees that the snake has been transformed. It's merely a coil of rope. It was laying still all that time. There's no snake after all. Laughing at himself, he shakes off his fear and keeps going down the road. The reason I love that old Zen story is that it's kind of putting into question, there's a thing that I'm staring at that I think is so terrible, dangerous, can bite me, can kill me, the snake. But what if there's something right with life in this moment that I'm missing? I can just pause. What if there's something right with me? And right with, everything that's happened, and noticing even whatever's happened is passing. What if there's something right about the behavior that I'm fighting so badly? It's trying to call my attention to something I'm not seeing, that I'm blind to. Which brings me to the third secret or principle in dissolving this self-sabotage or difficult feelings or stressful thoughts, is allowing whatever is present to be there. The situation, the beliefs, the feelings. We don't really have a choice. This is what is. You don't have to love it or anything. But what if this problem, instead of me being so against it, is my road to freedom? I really like noticing that many people say that when very difficult things happen to them, that's when there was a turning point eventually that changed their lives. It might have been something shocking, and then eventually something about it was incredibly transformative. I can definitely say now my eating issues were like that for me. Many of the teachers we know and love today, like Byron Katie herself, who I've learned so much from, or Eckhart Tolle, they experienced change after profound suffering. So the main thing to understand here is that questioning our beliefs and stories is never about condoning anything or pretending something didn't hurt that did hurt. It's the opposite, actually, I found. It's like we're seeing how much it really did hurt and being with it and noticing everything we've concluded about that pain. I find it's like accepting where we are allows us to stop resisting and applying all that aggression. We can uncover our answers and just see everything happening for what it is and our freedom. So I think of this approach like finding buried treasure. There are many fairy tales and myths of stories of buried treasure, right? Treasure is hidden in the floorboards of right under the house. Like somebody long time ago dug a hole, maybe a long time ago in our childhood, dug a hole and buried something precious, and then covered the hole with foundation and then replaced the floorboards in the house so everything was hidden underground. Well, I want you all to know where to look. If you know the treasure is in the floorboards, you're going to start digging up the floor. You're going to be willing to do the excavating. It's guaranteed. You might be surprised to find what difficult things from your life you can see in a way that brings peace, that is like brings the treasure out in the open. Pretty incredible. So I know what you might be thinking. This sounds hard. It sounds like it's complicated, maybe. It sounds like that's a big bridge to gap from being here over to there. Do you have to really examine everything that's ever produced suffering in your life? And it sounds like work, or it sounds not like there's no guarantee also. But the tricky thing is that self-inquiry is a way of being with this present moment. It doesn't take a lot of effort or momentum or analyzing. It's already underway. I think if we're so naturally curious and creative, like we're aware of being upset, boom, that's all we need. What's the mind saying? What's the chatter that's happening? Can we listen? Inquiry is not about finding the right answer. It's looking at our problems from a more open-minded direction. Like Byron Katie says, we're like seeds waiting to sprout. You can't force the growth. You can just nurture the soil and water the seed. And I think of that as with inquiry, and then let it be. And then growth will happen as we inquire. It's true. That's what's happened for me. So how do we do that? How do we practice that? Well, I've created this program called Year of Inquiry. Why I wanted to come out live today, right now. And it's starting this week. And I think of it as a practice community that helps us uncover these blind spots that keep us stuck in all the patterns of suffering. You know, we've got this 3-step kind of approach or some sort of ideas. Stop trying to quit and change. Stop trying to change. Very weird. Very counterintuitive in a way. Question your thinking that focuses on what's wrong and allow how it is to be the way it is for right now. They all kind of weave together and they help us just, okay, we're pausing here in this moment. We're wondering about our feelings and behaviors and our thoughts. We're interested in, seeing what it is we actually believe. Sometimes there's such old thinking. At least I found that to be true. So, year of inquiry, it's a powerful way to drop that knife of control and question what you've seen as wrong with your life and with yourself, and use what's already present, awareness that something's off, to uncover buried treasure. There's this African proverb that goes, "No one can do it for you, and you can't do it alone." That's the heart of this inquiry work, year of inquiry. There's a community, and we learn from each other. You just can go, in a way, you can go far. And I guess I, as a guide in this process, an inquiry, who's done this work so much myself, I've really noticed self-sabotage and mood swings and catastrophic thinking to be so much less frightening. And I know I've got this thing that I can do with that. So it doesn't mean, those have never happened again. They have. I'm a regular human with thoughts. But I can turn in a direction that works. So do problems entirely go away? No, but that's not the goal here. Our response to them changes. When we don't try to control things and believe everything's wrong, including ourselves, we begin to understand that self-sabotage behavior, the hard feelings and the stress, whatever they have been yelling about or inviting us to see, whatever our thoughts have been yelling about. Year of Inquiry was inspired because I needed to be practicing this work with others, not in a vacuum alone. And in this program, we look at hurt and fear and anger, shame, family of origin, beliefs that started a long time ago, unwanted habits, compulsive behavior, unwanted situations. And we use those places that we've suffered to actually understand ourselves and kind of create a fertile ground for painful beliefs to change. They wind up changing naturally. Like, we don't even have to make that happen. We just see differently when we're wondering. What was wonderful, especially for me, is once the stressful beliefs about life started to melt, many programs I had taken, like all those things that I had studied and taken, and all the people I had listened to, and philosophies and sacred texts, they started to make a lot more sense. So down below, wherever this recording is, you'll see a link, and it will take you to a page where you can read about Year of Inquiry. We've only just begun. So there's space for some more people. You can do this from anywhere in the world. It's all online. There's a way to question your thinking and do it in kind of a relaxed and shared way. It won't start for a whole other year, so why not now? I'm here to help, and I can't tell you all the incredibly inspiring changes I've seen over the 13 years that this program has been running. 13 years. So if you've wanted to understand your own mind and your own feelings that look off balance and your assumptions and behavior that looks like, God, why am I doing that? Like I had. No matter what it's ever been, Year of Inquiry can support you on the transformative journey. And I can't wait to meet you on the inside. Let me know if you have any questions. Lots of love.